Yeah, okay, we haven't heard you, so all right. So, Lampshade. So, for the ones who are new here, Lampshade is a community where we call ourselves Lampshade, a community to nourish writers, where we have poetry readings based on themes. And we have curated sessions like these where we call authors to come and speak about their experience, share their thoughts, and tell us more about a little bit more about themselves, their writing style, so that anybody who's in the writing space can benefit from it. Okay. So we've been doing this from past 2 years, almost 1.5 2 years. And before that, we used to run something called Nivasini, a small poetry press. That was since 2009, and that has evolved into Lampshade now. Okay, so great. That's about us. And about Rajesh M. Iyer, who is here. He wears a lot of hats. Okay, so I'll share his website details and you can look it up. And he has been in television, he has been in publishing. Right now, he's working on working for making his book into a film, adapting it to a film. And I accidentally came across this book, Uncle Pie, which is the biography of the publisher of ACK Comics. And a Tinkle lover myself, I loved it and I read it, and I was so much in love with the book as much as I was with the Tinkle and the whole Shikari Shambhu and those series. And immediately I like a millennial, I checked on Insta if he's there, and I reached out to him. And he was super sweet and he replied, he gave me an interview. And then I was like, okay, why not, even share this happiness with everybody who's in our Lampshade group of interacting with him. And I asked him, I was very scared. I was like, will he agree? Will he not agree? But then he was so sweet. He was like, yeah, sure. So that is what we have been doing. And we kept it pay as a like model only because we wanted to keep having these meetings as their subscription for Zoom. We keep recording it and we share it with people. So you can take my number and whatever we share it with the guests because they are very kind and they take their time out. So that is the whole idea of pay-as-you-like model. And I'll also share our respective Instagram handles. So you can check us out, you can like, follow, and keep encouraging us. So that's it about me. If anybody has any question, you can ask Rajesh sir. Else I do have some questions otherwise. So okay, please start. Please, sir, you can go ahead.
No. I mean, it's good. I mean, wow, wonderful introduction that you've given me. I don't know whether I actually wear many of these hats that you. The thing has been publishing into media per se for the last it's going to be 3 decades now. I mean,
wow.
And I'm 51 in this, so that's why the salt and pepper beard flat, so that people don't mistake me for a 40-year-old. So
okay.
I'm proud to be 50 plus. So yeah. So there. So yes, I mean there've been a whole lot of. But in nutshell, if I were to tell how do I define myself, that's exactly how I define myself in every place. There's one simple line: storyteller. So whether it's television, whether it's films, whether it's books, whether it's comic book, whatever it is predominantly about storytelling. So I am this wandering minstrel, wandering from here to there, telling stories. So,
okay. Great.
That's it. Yes.
So does anybody have any questions? Or I could start and then, you guys could follow my lead.
Because you've done.
Yes, we've done. I'll take a lead then. Yeah.
Q&A, right? Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. So, sorry, I missed that. Sorry?
There's a question in the chat. So, I don't know, we can start with that, or perhaps you can ask a question and then perhaps we can.
Okay, no. We'll start with the question in the chat then. Yeah. Actually, I can't see because I got logged out and logged in again.
Can I read it? Or
how
did you do the research for your book on Uncle Pie? Vidya Prem Kumar. Hi Vidya, thanks for this question. And that's the invariable, that's the first thing, like invariably people ask. Uh, I don't know if you can just check my, my corporate journey. The last of my corporate journey, in my last corporate avatar, I was in a company called Amar Chitrakata. That's called ACK Media. So I was a creative head and looking after the editorial and creative aspects of it. But the idea of Uncle Pai's book never cropped up while I was there. It's a story in itself. It's kind of weird whether we never thought about. Hello, yeah. I think some issue with the audio. Am I audible or?
Yes, you are.
So it actually didn't work out. So I'm just giving a backstory to it. It's that it didn't work out that way. We never thought about. And whenever Mrs. Pai would come and meet and recount these tales as well, anecdotes about that, it's just part of a conversation. We still never thought that ACK should be doing a book on him. Ideally, we should have. That is something that I find seriously a big handicap. Me as a creative head, I've never thought about it. It so happened that I left ACK and I have a literary agent who actually suggested this. Why didn't you write? And the first thing I told him was, what is there to write about him? I mean, it's there in the public domain, right? I mean, everyone knows what they want to know. There are people who grew up on Amar Chitrakata and Tinkle and were a great fan of Uncle Pai, wrote to him and know the entire thing. And what is there besides that? He said, but I said, let's park the thought as of now. Let me talk to a few people out there. The biggest problem with research would have been because people from that generation were hardly alive. I mean, the people who were there in 60s and 70s alive were very old and didn't have much of, recollect of the events. I said, this is an uphill task. I mean, how on earth am I going to do that? But it kind of like a dominoes thing, kind of tumbling, everything kind of like, one thing led to another. I met the relative, their nephews and nieces, who kind of like opened the door for me. And they said, wow, we never thought about that. I mean, like we in ACK looked at, they never thought that one day they should be making a book on their uncle. Then the research thing. But what actually caught me is, this is something that I didn't share earlier as well, but what actually caught me going was that there were contrary stories to one single event, even on the family thing and while the making of ACK and Tinkle. So there were certain things that become kind of like urban legend within the editorial corridors of Amar Chitrakata, the way it happened, way Tinkle was named, and whole lot of things, And then you start listening to people who were there at that time, and they start saying, oh, no, this is not exactly what had happened. Something like this happened. That kind of like whipped up the curiosity in me. And I said, this looks good to me. This looks good, even though as a life, it's kind of like a simple life that he has lived. There's no much of controversies attached to it. And so the only thing is that where do you derive that entire story arc? So the story arc actually came from was the fact that we need to look at the man's determination. One, to look at, today, if you realize a comic book he created, big deal, you will say. But you do have to realize that he created a comic book on Indian history, myths, legends in 1960s when comic books were looked down upon. Even in 70s, when Amar Chitrakata had become a rage, people used to pan it and say, look, everything is good. But the medium is very, it's a flimsy medium. It's not something that should be taken for something, it doesn't give the gravitas. This is a man who brought gravitas through a medium which doesn't have, that value, that seriousness in fact. So that's where the entire research started. So I kept meeting a lot of relatives, and one thing led to another. But the best part about it is to meet the people who were there along with him in the editorial room at that point of time. That would have been. And lo and behold, I could talk to Mr. Subba Rao, and I could talk to Luis Fernandez, and I could talk to get hold of Kamala Chandrakant's daughter. So these are the three pillars who actually were the closest with Mr. Pai. And if you are a Tinkle fan, you'd realize that without these three, it's next to impossible. Even Mr. Pai would not have created. I'm going on record because in the book I've actually mentioned, he's actually rejected the idea. It was Mr. Subbarao who actually insisted we must do it. He had created a prototype along with Kamala Chandrakant and Louis, and he insisted. Then he went back to him after a few months and convinced the management. So the research part was when you started doing that, things were tumbling, things started happening, and then you started realizing that. So the research part, if I answer the question straight, sadly, I didn't do any research while I was there in Amarchitrakatha. All of that happened much after that. One more thing I must tell everyone that I never personally met Mr. Pai. That's the saddest part.
Yeah, so that must be so hard, right? Yeah.
I said, am I the right person? Entire time, till the time I finished the first draft, I was thinking, am I really the right person to be doing this? Shouldn't be done by somebody. Then I realized it's call it serendipity, call it whatever it is, luck, the kind of chance that is actually fallen upon you. The fact of the matter is, because I had that kind of distance, and because there was not, even though there have been some critics who actually said, he's praised Mr. Pai so much, it's a hagiography, which is fine, to each his own, But the fact is, I get the kind of distance which people around him might not. So that, I think, was a big disadvantage, which actually turned into a major advantage while I was writing. So, yes, to cut the long story short, yes. So the research actually started 2.5 years of meeting, I think 70, 80, 90 people I met. People who worked with him, people who are affected through him, people who have interacted. So then suddenly one thing led to another and people were pouring in letters. So there one of the colleagues is in New Zealand. There's another, I could talk to the doctor. Unfortunately, she couldn't speak to me in much detail. Is even his young neighbor, young Raji, on whom he created a character called Raji, Little Raji. Yeah. She's now a famous surgeon in the US. So So it's about research itself is a living experience. It's like a life, living a life, entire life of your own. So yes. So answering, I think Vidya, if that answers your question, that will do. Yeah. Thank you. So there's another question. Krishnangi Parikh. Well, how was your experience like unraveling knots and bits of someone's life? What's the most beautiful event from the life of Uncle Pai that touched you? Also, there's a quote that says that wise people learn from the life of others. So what did you learn so that we don't do certain mistakes? I would like to share. Wow. Okay, great. I'll have a sip before I answer that. One of the most important things is I am a maverick writer. I keep realizing that. So I give a bit of a history of 91 when I graduated. I come from a place called MP, Madhya Pradesh, center part of India. I'm a Hindi speaking here. So so don't go by my name. I'm a Hindi speaking here. And when I decided to, and I'm a management graduate who decided I don't want to do a corporate job, I want to be a full-time novelist and a writer. How do you do it? And it has been an uphill task, doing a bit of a job, succeeding, then quitting. So I've been branded by people saying, oh gosh, either he's irresponsible, but who knows what dream does to you? It doesn't let you sleep. So you got to understand. So when you said what was the experience that the most beautiful form of behavior that touched you was, I realized, are people talking about me? When they were actually talking about Anant Pai of 1950s, when everyone said he's doing stupid things. His closest, his sisters also thought, what on earth? This fellow is an engineer. He doesn't want to do an engineering job, and he chugged an engineering job without telling anyone. It was like deja vu of sorts. Seriously, is it 1950s Anant Pai they're talking about, or 1990s Rajesh Iyer they're talking about? So that was one reason what also connected me to the character much more than perhaps the life experiences. It's because there's a karmic connect you can call, or something very, very similar that's happening to a person in a completely different era, in a completely different geographical setup. That kind of gave me a big fillip. Not just the research material that I got, but the fact that, yes, there is something that I can relate to. It's not something I'm coming from a distance and I'm talking. So that I think is something that has been there throughout, and it gave me goosebumps the first time I heard those stories. There are at least 10 instances which had happened in my life, which happened in his life. There's nothing to do with it. I like, what? Seriously? Are you talking about him or about me? And so that's something that, so Krishnagi, I could have answered that. It's that connect is what gave me that's the most beautiful event, most beautiful thing that touched me. Yeah.
Great. You guys can also unmute yourself and ask if you want anything. Meanwhile, I have a question. Or if anybody else has, they can go first too. That's fine.
No, I don't think there's anyone.
Okay. So, just to, break the monotony a bit, I'm just going to ask you rapid fire questions, if that's okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, what's your favorite book?
Are you going to give me hampers like Karan Johar does?
No.
Sorry for that. No, I couldn't resist.
Yeah, I'll give a tea hamper.
No, that's the best thing. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So, yeah, okay. So, what's your favorite book?
Very difficult to say to somebody who's been voracious reader. I used to read 2-3 books back in the day. That kind of reading I did.
Okay.
But if I would pin me down, To Kill a Mockingbird, Lee Harper.
Oh.
That undoubtedly.
All right.
Yeah.
Great.
So very difficult. Finally, it boils down to 2-3 books. If I can just one is this, yes.
All right. What's your favorite color?
If you want green, yellow, blue, all of them.
All right. Okay. So, what's your one habit that you do while you're writing? Otherwise you wouldn't do. It's like one peculiar habit while you do when you're writing.
That I don't remember. I go beyond time and space.
Okay.
It's not a habit. It just happens. Seriously.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, I've been a bad meditator, but while I'm writing, and I realize it happens with just about all creators, you just don't realize. And you suddenly realize. So I don't know. I used to have a very bad habit of biting my nail. Thankfully, God's my sister, my old friends will always, they keep saying, what the hell? I mean, this was such a bad habit. But that was one thing.
Even I do that. I think all of
I have gone over it. So I think, gotten over it. So.
Right. One book you wished you had written.
Wished you had written? Why? To Kill a Mockingbird. Or perhaps even Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude.
All right. Wow. Yeah, that's a great book.
It's like, I don't know where I can write this. How do you define such a difficult book being read by 40-50 million people? It's like, it's been a very difficult. I just like to speak 2 words on this. The other day I was telling my son about this. I have no idea. It is a difficult book. There's no 2 minds about it. Yet, how do you not acknowledge the fact that at least 50 million people have bought this book, and that means at least 1 million people must have read, borrowed and all that kind of things. So it is not. So to me, that is, I think, the best storytelling. It's like a quicksand. You just get sucked into it. You don't realize the reason or anything. I mean, you put a reasoning to it. Why do you like it? Oh, I'm relating to it. Oh, no, nothing. You don't realize it. It's a heart-to-heart connect, and it just pulls you into that. That's why I keep calling quicksand.
Yes.
A good book, a good piece of art has to be quicksand. You got to pull a reader into it. So I think if I were more than To Kill a Mockingbird is 100 Years of Solitude. Yeah, that's
wonderful. Great.
I seriously doubt whether I can write that.
Yeah. All right. Great. So that ends my rapid fire questions. And also we have at the right time, Sudesh Pillai has asked you a question. I'll just read it out. Childhood memories are a significant part of who humans are, especially writers. Wow, that's well said. Because they have to express a lot in their writing in many ways. What do you think when you look at your childhood in retrospect? how has it contributed in making you a writer?
Immensely.
Wow, that's a very good
That,
question.
yeah, to put it mildly, immensely with bold, underlined, italicized, whatever you say, however
Yeah.
emphasize it you, and that's still, I had a golden childhood. I mean, that we did all kinds of masti, like I said, and I written a book. I'm not carrying it. My second book is about, and it's invariably you do inspire. The characters are there, and there are two things that I've loved to. So my second book is about Holi. I would love to know anybody who's actually lived in MP, UP, Bihar, Rajasthan in the childhood days, especially boys. I mean, for them, Holi is around the corner. So I'm mentioning this because for them, there's nothing else, teenage boys, except stealing wood. That is the only preoccupation you have. There's an exam around the corner, the parents are going wild. The only thing you plan about is kahan se lakdiyan churayenge. That's all. And those are experiences which I put. The second book is about Hari and Friends, a Holy Adventure. It's about how they plan. It's a very philosophical into it. But these are nuggets. Even while you're playing, while you're there, people are there, and characters, you don't have to jot them down. I mean, it's their mannerisms, their idiosyncrasies, their ways of speaking, which it's there subconsciously registered. And there's one more point which I want to add while you're talking about childhood memories. One of my colleagues, I've been an editor for 25 years. So, we were talking one day while my co-editor actually spoke to me. He said, you always keep saying that you're bad with name. And I'm pretty awful with names and faces. I don't remember. And which is so odd for an editor or a writer. For them, you got to remember names and faces, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I got thinking when she asked me, how do you? So I realized it's not the name that matters. So I'm not interested in perhaps knowing what Nivedita's name, if I remember, or her face. More than that, is there the way she talks or something that catches me? Subconsciously, I remember something. And she would not appear as an, oh, I'm going to take something, the way Nivedita behaved like that when I was talking to her. No, it just comes back, it just comes back. And you realize when the character is drawn. So drawing from childhood has been huge impact. All my life, not just childhood. It's also because I walk a lot. I'm a great walker. It's like I keep walking every day. So while tea shops across this country, that's the best place when you can meet a lot of people and you distance yourself. So those are memories that and great research material for any book that can come. So yes, so answering your question, yes, childhood memories as well as lifelong memories. Yes, it has been great impact. Yeah, somebody did mention, you have mentioned how Mrs. Pai would come to meet you in your office. How many times while writing that you had, oh, such moment, I could have got more? All the time, sir. Oh, I don't know, sir, ma'am. Oh, that is, it's just Galaxy M32. So I would say all the time, all the time. I did not just say, oh, chucks, I would kick myself. That goodness gracious, had I only known, not only about getting anecdotes, because look, if you read the book is predominantly about his creation inside the office. So it's more of an office thing, so I wasn't very, disappointed that I didn't get too many information from her. I was disappointed that I couldn't get access to his diaries, his writings, his books. That would have turned this book into a completely different. And sad to add that I think people had been uncouth enough not to keep it properly. Whoever got hold of it, I've heard stories about it. I don't want to now there. There's been a little bit of a controversy as well, and I have to actually fire them. Is that perhaps they even sold it off? I still cannot, even while I'm saying this, these are national treasures. We could, in some other country, perhaps we would have created a museum around that. Yet here we don't have anything. I don't have a single copy of it. And I do mention, Nivedita, if you remember, he's written a Hindi book.
Yes.
Beach Ki Kadi. Right?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
No copy left. I couldn't get a single copy from anyone.
That's very unfortunate.
So O Chuck's moment has been O kick moments.
Mm.
And throughout the book, I kicked myself for not talking to Mrs. Pai and not knowing that I'll be doing a biography, and just perhaps, things would have been much, much better. This book
I
could have
know.
been much, much. I mean, I'm still
True.
hunting. We could do another edition if we get hold of it. Unfortunately, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. And I was actually, when I got the book, right, I was so thrilled that somebody wrote a biography on one of the most, like they say, like you said, India's best loved publishers. And Tinkle, Shikari Shambhu, all these characters were such a huge part in many of our lives when we were young. And I still remember one uncle coming in scooter, he was a library man, and people, he would, give it to us for a week for 25 paise, and we would all take
Yeah.
one copy and exchange it and do that, and they were like such
Them.
beautiful memories, and such a thoughtful thing to write on somebody who has affected our childhood in such a nice way. Yeah.
It is. I mean, it's just an acknowledgement. It's not just about writing about biography about a man. It is more
Yes,
of saying thank you, Uncle Pai, for making
exactly.
us
Thank you,
what it
Uncle Pai.
turned out to be. There's no too much about it. So if
Ex-
somebody blames me for, oh, he's a fanboy, let them blame. I am a
I
fan.
know, absolutely. Proud fanboy, or myself proud fangirl.
Okay. I think I've done justice in the way that I've also showed the weaknesses as well, his anger and other aspects which have been there. But then that man has actually, he's a colossal figure, which we have not recognized in this country, which is also a very sad thing. State of affairs, the government, private entities, people have not acknowledged. And they've been on and off things, give him Bharat Ratna and just fizzles off. So we try to do. So just adding on to that is that I started this sort of a campaign, not an online thing. Online things doesn't work all that well. Is that going through the government corridors and all? So make sure that posthumously at least he's given one big honor. It's high time it should be given to.
Absolutely.
It's seriously, trust me, had it not been for me, it's a tall claim. It's a claim that nobody can deny. Even so-called people who actually blame him to, oh, he's poisoned their minds. He's had one way of telling stories. Whatever you say, that could have been true to a very large extent. I'm not saying that. But India, a lot of heritage and storytelling stories would have been lost, and children would have not, gotten acclimatized, understood that entire great heritage of this land, had it not for the Uncle Pies and his vision. And that's something you cannot deny. Four generations grew up on knowing India's culture and heritage through this man's creations. What else do you say about that? I mean, there is no example anywhere in the world. Walt Disney didn't create anything that has to do with American culture. He created something that made money for himself. I mean, let's be very clear about this. Yet Walt Disney is looked at, oh, great. People call Uncle Pai Walt Disney of India. I think it's rubbish. He is, Walt Disney should be said that Uncle he's Pai a miniature Uncle Pai of United States. Not Uncle Pai, miniature in Uncle Pai of United States. So yeah, so I think, it's been, his contribution goes without saying. We are talking about Indian culture. Today, the entire, I looked at, I got friends who are politicians and all. I said, today you're talking about Indian culture. The entire thing, revival, happened because people are able to connect only because this gentleman who you would not acknowledge exactly in 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, he told so many stories, which is like unbelievable. It's unbelievable thing, and nobody knows. The other day, I was doing an interview with somebody. There's a club in Nanda Club in Coimbatore, and he said, "Look, I still didn't know anything about, because growing up in Tamil Nadu, you might know about Tamil culture. You might know about what you read in history books. I didn't know about the Ahom, kings from Assam. I didn't know about Baga Jitin. I didn't know about all these people. Yes." It is only through Amar Chitrakat I knew about, which is a fact. I mean, it's an undeniable fact that he's done human service, and I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's been really, really been I think a great, and this time that country acknowledged him, give him the rightful place which he deserves. So that's all I can say. We're doing our own effort, and we require everyone's help, when
Absolutely,
the
absolutely.
campaign comes up,
Sure, please
Yeah,
should share
that's
the
it.
details with us also, and we'll share it in
I
our
will.
group. Yeah,
Right
yeah.
now, it's more into government processes and all, and it takes ages, So we try doing that. So let's see. Somewhere down the line, we'll be able to come up with something much more concrete than what we're doing right now. So yes,
Sure,
yeah.
sure.
So
Great. There's one question by Neha here. So thank you so much for that insight, first of all. I think, the campaign, and I totally agree with all that. Because for a lot of us, even I think Jamna Iyer is saying that he inculcated reading habit in children. Absolutely, Jamna. I think
absolutely, yeah.
that's
There's
true.
no
That's
two
true.
minds about it. It's
Yeah.
the fact that we fought over something, and
Yes.
one I think there's something that I need. This is, I think, it started with the Amar Chitakatha and with Tinkle. It was even in a comic book. These are something which the parents didn't thrust upon the kids. They didn't. It was the kids who asked the parents to get us this.
Yes. Yes.
So that was the first that they created in that country, which in India there was none. And it was only when you look at or talk about, I don't want to name comic books, brands and all, but all of them followed his path. So it is, it's great. So yeah.
Yes.
So sorry, Neha's
Yeah.
question. What
Neha
is
is
that?
asking. How
Discipline when it comes to being a writer. Extremely important. I am again emphasizing extremely important because uh, writers have this tendency of saying, "Oh, we have, I don't know when the writing will come. अभी मूड नहीं है, मूड आएगा तो लिखेंगे." Rubbish. Trust me, it is rubbish. And I've said that over the years. I've been film writing and television and all, and there this thing prevails. Whenever the mood strikes, we'll write. Someday you won't write. For 2 days, you won't write anything. Then you'll write one scene. It doesn't work. Some of the best writers have been the ones who actually take a time out and in a disciplined manner sit at their desk and start writing every single day. Period. Without fail. It's like doing a job. So one anecdote that comes to my mind is somebody asked one of the most part time, he's written so many books. Is what do you do when you? He said, I think he writes in a longhand. He doesn't even type. He said, I sit on my desk and start writing. I have no idea. It's a writer's block. So I say, once upon a time, there was a king. There's no story, nothing. But I am just egging that entire universe to give me a story. So you start writing a story. Once upon a time, there was a king, blah, blah, blah. King married somebody. And then you throw that away because the story has come. You have taken that step. It's like taking that step. When you say the universe conspires to make it happen, Paulo Coelho says that, universe will only conspire when you're doing something. Universe will not conspire when you're sleeping. Universe will conspire only when you are doing something. So you take one step. Rajneesh says this beautiful thing about bhakti. He says, do you think you're the only one who's walking towards the God? You're stupid to think that. You'll never reach that. Because you take one step, the divine takes 4 steps towards you. That's why you reach. It's not that you take in that step and you reach. It's stupidity to think. But you have to take that one step for divinity to take that 4 steps. So discipline is extremely important. Extremely. Goes without saying. Nothing can ever happen. And especially novel writing, you've got to be very, very disciplined. So, yeah. So I'll get back to, if you can, if you still have time, there's this one principle which I learned. I will later on, if you can remember that 3 P's of life. So I'll perhaps tell you later, I guess, or somebody told me. I'll just add on to that before, unless we digress completely. While I was writing, so I'd go knock at people's places, and say, this is way back in 91, 92 at Bhopal. And nobody knew what do you do as a novelist. And no one could get an idea because there's no novelists there,
Yeah.
People were journalists who were doing novel writing. So they found it very funny that this guy at 21 is like weird. He's saying, no, I don't want to be a journalist. I want to only write novels, write stories. So there's this retired journalist who just gave me 10 minutes. So sad that I don't even remember his name. God bless him. He retired and he was given a... So he's, so I have just completed my management. So anybody who's done management and marketing would realize that. So marketing mix has got 4 P's: product, price, place, promotion. So that's where, so I rattled off, as a Philip Kotler. So I told him 4 P's. I don't know whether he impromptu created that or it was such seriously coincidence that he had a similar philosophy. So he told me, I can't tell you anything about life per se. You're going to do something which I have not done. I'm not a novelist. I have not written a book. But anything you do in life, I keep telling this when I go to colleges and all. Anything in life, you remember, you've got to have 3 P's in life: prayer, patience, perseverance. One of these P's go down, you can't succeed with the next 3. Prayer is the deep desire. So he didn't tell me, so I am just articulating that. Prayer is the deep desire, wanting to do something. If I was at 1991, wanting to write a novel, today also want to write a story, tell a story. That's my prayer. That's the thing. Perseverance, keep at it, keep doing it. So we do 10 drafts. I mean, in Nivedita as an editor would know. I mean, if you're in trade publishing, you say you should never share a book even with your friend or your family till the 4th draft. That's the standard thing, because till that time you're just toying around, doing things and self-indulgence and all kind of things. It's only by 4th draft that you have chopped it so badly and said, what rot have you written? That kind of self-criticism comes in. Then you start realizing, yes, they like. So I always realize that these 3 P's are something that has really held me on to, in good stead. So I think, yeah. So that was, so it's 3 P's is what I needed to. So prayer, perseverance, keep doing it, and patience. I think I didn't, patience, you got to wait. Life doesn't work the way you think. I've always thought, the first book, and I thought in 91 in place like Bhopal, I thought the biggest publisher will come and hunt for a man like great Rajesh Iyer. We all think that way. People would lie if they say that they don't think. All creators think that way. They said, oh, the next discovery is sitting in Bhopal and he is going to be the best person. And I had this thing about why I keep mentioning about To Kill a Mockingbird and 100 Years of Solitude is you have muted yourself, I think. Yeah. So
sorry, yes.
3 books, 2 books especially. In the 80s edition, if you have the 80s edition, you'll see 30 million copies sold. So I started with that point. I said, one day I should have one book which is sold over 30 million copies, So
Wow.
You're dreaming about that. But you don't do anything till the time you have prayer. You don't do anything if you don't have perseverance along with the prayer. You don't get anything unless you have patience to wait for things to happen. It takes ages. Sometimes it happens immediately, but you never know. Something is churning out in the back. You perhaps thought that it's happened overnight, but something is working like very shorter rate, but universe is perhaps working for ages now, for lifetimes, till you know. So I think 3 P's are very important. Yeah. Okay. Where were we? Nivedita is gone off the whole.
No, I'm here.
Are you there?
I was just on mute.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, great.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Okay. Yeah. So.
In addition to the criticism part, actually I had another thing to add to. So they also say, it's like you should never give to your family and friends because like your mother's opinion, because it will obviously be good and they will definitely praise. Yeah.
I read, but best part about it is I have set of people who are good. So I always keep saying that, Kabir ka ek doha hai. Nindyak nare rakhiye aangan kutti sahay. Bin pani bin sabun nirmal kare soha. Matlab, you got to keep a critic near you. He's saying Nindak Nyare Raki. Nindak means not necessarily who's criticizing, a critique. Who will make sure, pull you down every time you're going all over the place. Don't do that. This is not right. He's saying keep him so close to you. Angan Kuti means say build a house for him, build a place for him in your own courtyard so that he doesn't go away. So he's there knocking on your head every single day. So I keep this. Kabir keeps knocking on my head. Krishna, I'm a Krishna lover. Krishna keeps knocking on my head. Make sure not off key. Don't go as so. Criticism is part, and it's a good thing when people criticize. It's actually a good thing. You do feel bad. That's human nature. But that's maturity when you actually feel bad and realize, oh no, what they're saying is right. Because like I said, when you do your fourth draft, by the time you do your fourth draft, you have 50% of your first draft is gone. Obviously, that was bad. That was bad writing, didn't it? So who wrote that bad thing? You wrote. No one else did. So so you got to become a self-critic. You got to start realizing. So you got to give yourself a gap. So while we're doing a drafts also for fellow writers who perhaps, if some of you, if you're there, one of you who's perhaps writing a first novel or, working on it, give yourself space when you're doing between two drafts, that let the characters go away from you. There's another one important thing that somebody told me very early in my life, even before I started writing. He said, never fall in love with your characters. Never fall in love with your characters, because like you are criticizing, self-critic, you'll not be able to critique of the character, because character is also coming from deep inside you. And then the character is everything good and every which way. It's like a pristine image of things. It's not going to work. So you got to be, there's a certain amount of detachment that has to be there from your work, from your writing, from your phrases, from the words that you use. We fall in love. Writers, we always fall in love with the way we write. The words I write. I had a tough time and I didn't realize it. I have tough time with my editors. Little realizing that I've been an editor for 25 years. And I've been telling writers, what kind of a phrase are you using this? This is not done, boss. You've got to change this. And then when I become a writer and I'm telling my editor, to hell with whatever you're saying, I will remain. I want to use this word. So you got to be a little more flexible, try to understand. And that's it. So, yeah. So we come to Sudhish's question because it's related to, I think, kind of half answered the question already. As writers, how do one can keep a sane balance of subjectivity and objectivity in his or her writing? Like I said, Nindak Nare Rakhi, got to be a critic. Have critics around you. Have a lot of critics around you, even if it feels bad. And be a self-critic. Try to understand that the end of the day, your aim is to come out with a product which looks good. The aim is not to get yourself a pat on the back. No, that you get. The aim is also not getting 30 million copies sold. No, the aim is to write a good story, tell a good story, period. End of story. That is the entire aim of storytelling, nothing else. To connect to more people, to write to them, they are interacting, there's a lot of people buying it, getting influence. All of this is good. But the fact of the matter is that you have to tell for your thing, you have to. So that's why you got to keep a balance of subjectivity, because you can't have objectivity unless you are a critic. So self-criticism, look at it objectively, keep doing that, and keep a space between that, because you invariably fall in love. How do you keep the same way he's asking his same balance between objectivity and subjectivity is when you distance yourself a little bit. So I can give an example of while you're doing drafts. So you have so close to the character, so close to the story. But once you give a gap between two of these drafts, draft number 2 and 3, and you realize that you're no longer sleeping and it's not flowing in the blood. So let it go out of the blood a little bit. And when you come from outside and then you read it, and then it becomes a very objective analysis, and you realize, oh gosh, why is he or she talking like this? Why am I writing like this? So all these things come in. So next question is this, it's the longest question. How was your experience in relation to this whenever you write? So yeah, so these are the tricks that you do, every single time, every book that you write, every script you write. Have you ever caught your writing bias based on your subjectivity? Have you ever thought you are becoming too objective, that the techniques is subjectivity? Yes. In all the books, I realized that I am becoming subjective. That's where you come in. That's where you cleanse it completely. I don't think I'm becoming too objective. I don't know. I mean, too objective could be somebody else might realize that. Perhaps I could take a little bit of liberty and, I don't know what is too objective, frankly speaking. I am not able to understand what is too objective. Are you, is saying that too cut and dry, too running away from storytelling, too much of a mind element and not heart element? It can happen. It can happen. If I were to perhaps now look at my first book, perhaps, or first or second book, perhaps I might be realizing that these are certain aspects. So you do realize, and you look and you learn from all these things. So these are all there. We humans, like the bard said, to err is human. Like we do that. We got to keep enhancing us. Yeah. So who else is there? So Neha, Nivedita. Okay. Yeah. No questions after that. Yeah.
I have another question, and I think after this we can wrap it up. It's okay, and because I think it's almost 15 minutes, and we have to move on to poetry reading also.
Yeah.
So I have like one question. So first of all, congratulations that your books are being adapted into films, and I think it must be a great feeling to watch Uncle Pai on big screen, I'm sure.
It is. And for someone who spent the formative year before publishing in television and films, and from there I have my own journey actually started from television. So
yes,
it's great homecoming of sorts when you see your work getting adapted.
Yes.
When it actually happens, how it actually happens is only time will say. Because this is a tussle that's been happening for a book. So it's a wonderful thing. So I don't know if I'll be writing all the scripts of, most probably not. Some of the books that have been taken, 2 of the books have been taken right now. Some are in consideration. Some of them, they're just taking the rights. So they might not come to me as a writer. They might say, oh, we'll adopt somebody else, get somebody else, an outsider, who will do a completely different perspective. So the film could be completely different aspect. I might not agree with it. Invariably, the author never agrees with the way the film is made. Unless the author himself, Mario Puzo, writing a book as well as Godfather film is a different thing. But the fact is, if you take it completely by somebody else, he or she will have her own or his own perspective. But I need to be accommodative about it. So, and I am waiting. More than anyone, I'd love to see how somebody else translates the way I had thought about it into a different way. So it's an experience in itself. It's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So that's when is it due to release or something? I mean,
I don't know. The first one has been, I can't name the producer because they have gagged me for their confidentiality clause and all. But they are the biggest producers, one of the biggest producers in Bombay. So big. So apparently, whenever they do that, it's going to be very big.
Okay, that's great.
So that's one thing. That's good, bad, ugly. Will only when the final product comes out, and it stays true to my book again. When the final product comes out, we'll know. The second book has been taken up by Almighty Pictures. I can name them because they have Uncle Pai has been taken up. Whether it's going for OTT or it's going to be a film, it's still early days. We just signed a deal. It's still early days, so we don't know how it goes. We initially did think about it along with somebody else. It didn't work out.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's still time will tell how it turns out. But yes, there's a completely different journey. And one of these critics, why I realized that is, I think one of the critics in Asian Age or somebody in my first novel, she actually blamed, I don't know whether blaming me, I took it as a compliment, is that she says the writer seems to have thought about a film already because he's written it as a film, which I took it as a great compliment. Yeah, I mean, perhaps I wrote it that way because I'm seeing a cinema there. Perhaps because I'm a scriptwriter as well, so I am able to see cinema. To me, that end of story is like a cut point. So I know one scene cutting to another, a jump cards or anything. So I know from dialogue cards. So I'm going from that. So I've adopted that. It's like it's very that way. It's seamlessly between a script and so having said this, You'll have to wait and watch how it turns out. Yeah.
Okay.
I think, yeah, that answers.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So yeah, with that, I think we'll end the session unless anybody has a quick question. I'll take that as a no then. So thank you so much again. Thank you for coming over and answering all these questions. And I think I'll definitely learned a lot. I went and looked up the Kabir's Doha, and then I'm a big fan of Kabir also, and I have a shirt which has some Doha printed on it.
Great.
So great. And then the other thing I learned.
Kamal.
Sorry?
There are few anecdotes about Kabir and his son Kamal. His son is called Kamal. And he's Kamal only. And he would push Kabir, and test his spirituality.
Wow.
Like no one. Oh, it's brilliant. Some of it is simply brilliant. So,
absolutely, we'll check that. And the other one is 3 P's: prayer, perseverance, patience. Wow, that's I think very, very important, especially in today's fast age, and like everything is like such a Swiggy Zomato generation, right? So and yes, I think it's very important. Yeah. So yeah, that's it, and thank you so much again, thank you, and I'll share this recording with you. And I'll also share, I shared your website in case anybody wants to ask you some more questions, and they can connect with you via website, I think.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you. Thanks again, and and all the best for your films and your books also. Please keep writing.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I need the blessings. I need the wishes. Thank you. I can leave.
One second, please. I forgot. I think you should take a picture. People have switched off their cameras. Please switch on your camera so that we feel like there are others also.
Okay.
Thank you. Great.
Is the light enough?
Yeah, the light is enough. Oh, wonderful. It's so nice seeing everybody. Okay. Whoever is comfortable, of course, we'll just take a picture. That'll be great. And yes, wonderful.
Yeah. Cheese. Did it do cheese? Okay. Yeah. I'm pretty bad with photographs. Okay.
Yeah, it would be nice if we could all meet in person, but I took one.